1, active search scramble into descending zone.
Good morning and welcome aboard our Piper Cherokee cruiser. We're on the ground at Tacoma Narrows Airport, and today we're going to be taking a very short flight over to Auburn Airport, as shown here on ForeFlight. Distance is about 15 nautical miles. What's going to make today's flight different is we're going to experience an engine fire en route at some point unknown to me. So we're going to have to go through the emergency checklist procedures for an engine fire, find a suitable landing location. Hopefully there'll be an airport within our glide distance, but if not, we're going to have to land either in a field or a roadway or whatever is most suitable based on our situation. So let's go ahead and hop inside the airplane and get it started. So I'm running through my checklist items. I have those on my screen to the right. So you might see my head turn from time to time as I look at those. Before starting, engine, documents, and handbook on board and complete. Seats adjust, seatbelt secure, and brakes are set. Radio switches are off, and checking all other switches. All other switches are off. Ignition is off. Primer, we're going to give it 3 pumps for a cold start. Checking all circuit breakers. All circuit breakers are in. Setting throttle at 1/4. Mixture full rich. And we're going to turn on our master switch and fuel pump. Looking for positive fuel flow. Positive fuel flow is shown. Fuel pump off. Rotating beacon on. We're going to select the most full fuel tank. They look like they're both about equal. And so we'll set it at the left tank. And we're going to check the area, and it is clear. Ignition switch on. And press and hold starter button. And we have a good start. Bring our RPMs down to 900. And radios on. And frequency, we're going to go ahead and set that to ground. 122.8, and we have tower 1185 set in standby. 12405 is our ATIS. Let's go ahead and listen to ATIS.
Tacoma Narrows Information Lima. 1600 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable, visibility 10. Sky conditions 5000 scattered, temperature 14, dew point 11. Altimeter 3016. Arriving runway 35, departing runway 35. Advise on initial contact, you have Lima.
Okay, Lima is current. And runway 35 is in use. So I'm going to lean for taxi. And we'll go ahead and get our taxi clearance and head over to runway 35. And we're tuned to Tacoma ground. Tacoma ground, Cherokee 7428 Romeo's at north hangars with Lima. Taxi VFR departure to the east. Cherokee 7428 Romeo, Tacoma ground. Taxi via runway Alpha Bravo 3, runway 35. Taxi runway 35 via Alpha Bravo 3, Cherokee 7428 Romeo. Beautiful VFR day here in the Pacific Northwest today. Beautiful day for an engine fire. So as I go through this series, it's really emergency procedures series in the Piper Cherokee. It's for my own training purposes. I'm trying to commit the emergency procedures to memory. Typically when you have an emergency, you're not going to have a whole lot of time to be fumbling around for a checklist. So you want to commit as many of the emergency procedures to memory as possible. It's going to be a high stress situation if it happens real world. And so the more you can train with these sorts of things in the simulator, the better off you'll be in the cockpit if it happens. It's a long taxiway to runway 35 from the north hangars. Probably with winds are variable, we could have taken runway 17, but I'm going with what ATIS said. So. Sure that our flight is synced with X-plane, and that's confirmed. You see the airplane moving on the map. You can also go into here and look at devices, and as you see here, it shows X-plane connected. Of course, in real world flight, if you have a ADS-B receiver on board, I've got a Sentry ADS-B receiver. When you go to devices, it would show the Sentry device in that very same list. The cool thing about the Sentry is that you see all the air traffic around you, and it gives alerts if air traffic is within a certain range of your airplane. It's pretty cool stuff. So we're going to pull out here to the left, do a run up.
Approaching runway 35.
All right. So we're going to go through our run up checklist. Brakes are set, seats and seat belts in place, elevator and rudder trims. Checking elevator trim, and that is set to neutral, and rudder trim also set to neutral. And flight controls, free and correct, and they are free and correct. Directional gyro set. Attitude indicator is calibrated. Altimeter is set to barometric pressure. Fuel quantity check, showing sufficient and balanced. Mixture set to full rich, and throttle 1,800. Magnetos check. Looking for less than 175 RPM drop on each magneto. That's right, about 100 shown. And left. Also about 100 shown. And checking carb heat, showing a slight drop. And we're going to put a load on the alternator and check for positive charge. Positive charge is seen. Checking engine instruments, oil pressure, fuel pressure, oil temperature are in the green. Suction gauge also in the green. And back to idle. And engine instruments are in the green. Bring it back up to 900 RPMs. And fuel pump on. Landing light on. Radio's on and set. We're going to switch over to tower 1185. Transponder set to altitude and squawking VFR 1200. Wing flaps set for takeoff. And confirmed. And cabin door latched. Okay, we're good to go. Taxi up to the hold short line. Before we do that, let's take a quick look at flight. Alright, so we're taking off to the north, and once we reach pattern altitude, we'll make a right turn out here and join our course to Auburn. Now, just to go through the emergency procedures for engine fire, the first thing you're going to do, even with an engine out procedure, is to achieve the best glide speed, which is 85 miles per hour in this airplane. Once you've achieved that, you're going to shut off all fuel sources to the engine. So the fuel tank selector is going to be turned off. The fuel pump, if it's on, is in the off position. Ignition switch is off, throttle off, and the mixture is set to lean cutoff, and cabin heat off so that you're not drawing smoke into the cabin from the engine compartment. All right, let's go ahead and taxi up to the hold short line and get our clearance.
Approaching runway 35.
Okay, we are tuned to tower 1185, confirmed. Tacoma Tower, Cherokee 7428 Romeo is holding short runway 35, ready for departure. Cherokee 7428 Romeo, Tacoma Tower, winds calm, runway 35, clear for takeoff. East departure approved. Clear for takeoff, runway 35, east departure approved. Cherokee 7428 Romeo. Lined up and ready, full throttle. Maintaining runway center line. Engine instruments are in the green, airspeed indicator is alive. And power is available. There's 75. And we're off the ground. Gonna climb out at 85. That's VX. And once we reach pattern altitude, we'll make our turn out to the right. There we are. And the green halo around the airplane is our glide advisor, showing us our glide distance if we set it at best glide speed of 85 knots, were we to lose engine power. And we're coming up on pattern altitude of 1,300. And there it is, we'll make our right turn out. Level off at 2,000. Pull the power back to cruise. Now, the one thing I want to point out here is as we fly into the Class Bravo airspace, as seen here. Right now we're fine. It's 3,000 to 10,000 in this Class Bravo shelf here, which we're coming into right now. But then it changes to 1,800 to 10,000 because that's the approach path for the runways 3-4 at SeaTac Airport. So we're going to go ahead and make sure we are descending down to about 1,600 feet to give us a 200-foot safety margin. And we'll fly below this shelf. So we don't violate their Class Bravo airspace. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a nice gentle cruise descent. Get us down to about 1,600 feet. RPM's back to about 2,000. There's 1,800. Now, one thing about an engine failure, or in this case an engine fire, is we don't have a lot of altitude here because we're flying under that Class Bravo shelf below 1,800 feet, so we're not going to have a whole lot of time to react here. Okay, we'll hold it right there at 1,600 and bring the power back up to cruise. Just now coming into the 1,800 to 10,000 Class Bravo here, and we're at 1,600, so we should be fine. And 7 nautical miles to Auburn. You can see our glide advisor. We don't have a lot of margin here. There is a golf course below us if we needed to land. Coming up to I-5 right here. Probably not a good place to land based on the volume of traffic typically on I-5. And 5.7 nautical miles to Auburn. Right now I'm experiencing a loss of power, and I'm starting to see some evidence of flames and smoke. I want to confirm that. Okay, we do have an engine fire. So I'm pulling the throttle back. I pulled the mixture back. I'm setting best glide. Fuel tank is off. Ignition switch off. And I'm going to look for a suitable landing location. Again, we have best glide set. Looking for fields, roads. I do have a road identified. I'm going to try to get this squawk to 7,700. I don't have time to get to my comms. Best glide is set. Cabin heat is off. Fuel pump off.
500. Sync rate. Sync rate.
I'm setting flaps. Okay, we do have a power line there. We want to clear that. Second notch of flaps. We're clear. Landing assured. Final notch of flaps. Applying brakes. Now that fire's fully developed. Now, right now, I would just get out of the airplane. So unlatch, open door, and exit. Now, if there was a passenger, they would have to get out first, then me. I'm staying in the airplane because it is a simulator. And we're going to do a quick debrief. So once again, engine fire procedure is fuel tank selector off, fuel pump off, ignition switch off, throttle off, mixture set to lean cut off, and cabin heat off because you don't want to draw engine compartment smoke into the cabin. So anything that's delivering fuel to that engine, you want to shut off. I was able to squawk 7700. Now we're within the 30-mile mode CVAL of Class Bravo airspace, so it's constantly monitored by ATC. So they should have seen this on their radar scope, 7700. I didn't have time, but if I did, I would have tuned to 1215 and made a mayday call and gave my approximate location. But I'm hoping that the 7700 squawk code was seen by ATC, so they're going to know that I had an emergency, and they'll go with my last known location on their radar scope. Here's a look outside the airplane. Again, I wouldn't be sitting in the airplane right now, obviously. Now let's take a look at our landing on a replay. So here's where our fire developed. And we're going through our emergency checklist, looking for a suitable landing location. Glide speed is set to 85 knots, miles per hour in this airplane. I've identified a landing site. Tank selector is shut off. Going through checklist items now.
$500.
Fuel pump is off. Mixture is set to lean cut off. Throttle is all the way back. Ignition switch is off. Cabin heat is off. And right here, I've seen some power lines that I need to clear. Now lining up on my landing location. Flaps, landing is assured. So I have 40-degree flaps in. And the only thing I was concerned about here is this drop off down to the water. So again, that's the emergency procedure for engine fire. Thanks for joining me today, and hope to see you again soon.